Learning English can change the entire direction of your life. That might sound like a big statement, but it's true. Deeply, quietly, and completely true. You may not feel it on the first day you start. In fact, on that first day, learning English might feel like a small act, like memorizing a few words or struggling to pronounce a sentence. But what you don't see in that moment is how this single choice begins to rearrange your future. When I decided to learn English, I wasn't just learning a language. I was stepping into a bigger world. I didn't know that at the time. I only knew that every time someone around me spoke English with ease, I felt small, left out, even embarrassed. I watched others access things I couldn't: books, jobs, conversations, opportunities, and it made me ask, what if I could do that too? That question became my turning point. I realized that I couldn't change everything around me. I couldn't change where I was born or how little access I had. But I could change my response. I could change what I chose to do next. So I chose English, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. Because deep down, I knew that learning English was like being handed a set of keys to unlock classrooms I once thought were closed to me, to speak with people I never imagined I'd meet, to one day wear the title of doctor with confidence, not fear. That's how life changes, not with a big bang, but with quiet, consistent choices. And sometimes the smallest choice, like learning how to say, "How are you?" or reading your first sentence out loud, can set your life on an entirely new path. I didn't know where English would take me, but I knew I couldn't afford to stay where I was. And maybe that's where you are too, wondering if it's worth it, wondering if you're too late, too slow, too old, too uncertain. Let me tell you, you're not. If you have even the desire to grow, then the direction of your life can change, just like mine did. And it starts with one word, one day, one decision: to begin. Language is not just communication, it's access to opportunity. Too often we treat language like it's only about speaking or writing, but it's much more than that. Language shapes how we think, how we see the world, and how the world sees us. When you understand a language like English, you're not just learning to form sentences, you're learning how to step through doors that were once closed to you. Think about it. The world's top universities, the latest research, medical breakthroughs, business ideas, global news, online courses, what language are they in? Mostly English. When you understand English, you're not depending on someone else to explain it to you. You can go straight to the source. That's power. When I was first studying medicine, I realized how many books, lectures, and international exams were in English. At first, it felt unfair, like the whole world was moving ahead while I was trying to catch up. But then I thought, what if English isn't the wall in front of me, but the ladder I need to climb? That thought changed everything. English opened doors to internships, to conferences, to mentors from other countries who had ideas and experiences I could never get in my local environment. Suddenly, I wasn't just a student from a small town, I was part of a global conversation. And that made me stronger, sharper, more informed. It gave me options. Language gives you access. It helps you fill out forms for better jobs. It lets you apply for scholarships, join international programs, attend seminars. It allows you to stand in rooms you once only dreamed about, and not only stand there, but speak and be heard. It's not about sounding perfect or using big words. It's about not being limited, because when you don't understand the language, you don't just lose words, you lose choices. And when you do understand it, you gain freedom. The freedom to learn, to grow, to connect, and to rise. So when you learn English, don't just think of it as grammar and vocabulary. Think of it as a key. And with that key, you can open doors that generations before you could only knock on. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be persistent. That's something I wish someone had told me at the very beginning. You see, many people never fully start learning English, or they give up too soon because they're waiting to get it right the first time. They wait until they think they can speak without an accent. They wait until they can write without a mistake. But the truth is, waiting for perfection will keep you stuck forever. Perfection is not how you learn a language, practice is. When I was starting out, I would try to form a sentence in English and the words wouldn't come out right. I'd forget vocabulary. I'd panic mid-sentence. I'd compare myself to others who spoke better, smoother, faster. But eventually, I realized something very important. The ones who speak fluently today were the ones who were willing to sound awkward yesterday. Every time you try, even if you mess up, you're training your brain, you're building memory, you're strengthening your courage. Language isn't something you master in your head before you open your mouth. It's something you build by speaking, trying, stumbling, and repeating. Persistence means showing up even when you're frustrated. It means listening to English audio while washing dishes. It means reading a sentence out loud even if you have to repeat it 3 times. It means sending that message, asking that question, raising your hand even when you're unsure. I've seen brilliant students fail, not because they weren't smart, but because they quit too early. And I've seen quiet, shy learners succeed, not because they were the best, but because they kept going. They didn't chase perfection, they chased progress. If you're waiting to feel ready, you'll wait your whole life. But if you take one small step today and another tomorrow, you'll be surprised at how far persistence can take you. English is not a mountain to conquer in a day, it's a path. And the only way forward is by walking it, one imperfect, courageous step at a time. Every word you learn builds confidence, and confidence opens doors. When I first began learning English, I didn't realize how powerful a single word could be. Just one word, used correctly, could change how I felt about myself. I remember the first time I answered a question in English and someone actually understood me. I smiled for the rest of the day. It wasn't just that I used the right word, it was that I proved to myself I could do it. Confidence doesn't fall from the sky, it's built like a house, brick by brick, and every new word, every phrase you master is another brick in that foundation. The stronger the foundation, the taller you can stand. The more you practice, the more you speak, the more your confidence grows, and the more you begin to realize that this language that once intimidated you is now something you can own. And that confidence doesn't just stay in the classroom or the study corner. It starts spilling over into other parts of your life. You start applying for that job you were afraid to go after. You ask questions in public without fear. You help someone else who's struggling. Why? Because confidence isn't just about knowing English. It's about believing in yourself. But here's something many people miss. Confidence doesn't come after you're fluent. It comes because you keep trying, even when you're not. You build it with every sentence you finish, every time you speak up, every time you read something and understand it on your own. So if you're learning English and you feel small, if you feel like you're not ready, keep going. Learn one word today. Use it. Feel that little spark of pride when you do. That spark is your confidence growing. And the more you nurture it, the more unstoppable you become. Because once you start walking into rooms with that quiet belief, I can speak, I can understand, I can connect, people will notice. Opportunities will notice. And the doors that once seemed closed will begin to open, simply because you showed up with confidence, built one word at a T. When you understand English, you connect to people, not just information. Language is more than just grammar and vocabulary. It's a bridge between hearts, between minds, between cultures. I used to think learning English was about passing tests or reading textbooks. But over time, I discovered something deeper. It was about connection. The ability to speak to someone from another country, to understand their story, to share mine, that's when English became real. I remember the first time I spoke with a foreign doctor during my training. We came from different worlds, but the moment we could understand each other, it was like a wall came down. We weren't just professionals. We were people sharing knowledge, ideas, even laughter. That moment wouldn't have been possible without English. You see, when you can speak to someone in their language, even just a little, it changes how they see you. It creates trust. It builds friendship. It opens a window into their world. And the same thing happens in reverse. When someone sees you making the effort to speak, to listen, to learn, they reach back. Connection is what makes life rich. It's what makes learning meaningful. And in today's world, so much of that connection happens in English, on the internet, in emails, on social media, in global teams. Whether you're chatting with someone in Canada, watching a documentary from the UK, or reading a story from Australia, you're building human bridges every time you understand. And what's beautiful is that it doesn't require perfect English. It just requires a willing heart. A few words shared with honesty can mean more than a perfect sentence spoken without feeling. So when you practice English, don't just think of it as a skill. Think of it as a gift you're giving yourself, the gift of understanding others, the gift of being understood. Because in the end, we don't just want knowledge. We want connection. We want to be heard, to be seen, to belong. And learning English is one powerful way to say, I want to understand you, and I want you to understand me too. English gave me a voice in rooms I never imagined I'd enter. Before I learned English, there were conversations I could hear but not join, meetings where I could sit but not speak, articles I could see but not understand. It was like being in a room full of opportunity, but the door to participation was locked. I could observe but not contribute, and that silence, that inability to be part of the conversation, felt heavier than I expected. But as my English improved, something powerful began to happen. I stopped being invisible. I could ask questions. I could share my thoughts. I could write an email that didn't need to be translated or double-checked by someone else. Slowly, I became visible, not just physically, but intellectually. And that changes everything. Whether it was in a classroom, a clinic, a conference, or even online, I began to realize that my voice mattered, that I had something valuable to say, and now I had the tools to say it. English didn't make me smarter, it made me heard. We often underestimate how important that is, to be heard. In professional spaces, in academic discussions, even in everyday life, being able to express yourself clearly changes how others see you. More importantly, it changes how you see yourself. You no longer feel like a visitor in someone else's world. You feel like you belong. There is a kind of quiet power in being able to speak up, to share your opinion, your knowledge, your perspective, and English can give you that power, not to dominate the conversation, but to be a part of it with confidence. So if you've ever felt small because you couldn't find the words, or left out because you didn't know how to respond, let me tell you, you don't have to stay there. Keep learning, keep practicing, because every new word you master is one more tool in your voice. And one day, you'll speak in a room you once felt unworthy to enter and realize you were meant to be there all along. Learning English helped me dream bigger than my surroundings. When I was younger, my world was small, not because I lacked imagination, but because my reality had limits. The conversations I heard, the books I read, the people around me, everything seemed to stay within the same circle. I thought I understood what was possible for someone like me. I thought my future was already written in the language I had grown up with. But then English came into my life, and with it, new ideas, new images, new ways of thinking. I remember watching a documentary in English about doctors working in war zones. I couldn't understand every word, but the message reached me. It stirred something inside me. It planted a new kind of ambition, not just to help people, but to help them everywhere, beyond my neighborhood, beyond my country. You see, language doesn't just teach you how to talk. It teaches you how to see. And English showed me things I never would have seen otherwise. Stories of scientists who made discoveries in faraway labs, stories of people rising from poverty through education, stories of ordinary men and women changing the world with an idea. And once I saw those things, my dreams couldn't stay small anymore. Learning English taught me that I didn't have to be limited by what was immediately around me. I could learn from people across the world. I could take online courses from international universities. I could read biographies, attend webinars, even email someone I admired in another country. English removed the borders in my mind. That's what a bigger dream is. It's not just wanting more, it's knowing more is possible. So if you've ever felt like your world is too small or your dreams are too big for your current life, remember this. Language can stretch the walls of your world. Every English sentence you understand is like a window opening, and once you've seen the view, you'll never settle for a smaller dream again. English opened doors that education alone could not. I studied hard, I read the books, I passed the exams, I earned the degrees. But still, there were moments where I felt like something was missing, like there was a wall I couldn't climb, a ceiling I couldn't break. I had the knowledge, I had the discipline, but the world I wanted to step into, it required a key I didn't yet have. That key was English. It's a humbling truth. Education gives you knowledge, but English gives you access. You could be the smartest person in your class, but if you can't communicate your ideas in English, many opportunities remain out of reach, not because you're less capable, but because the system speaks a different language. When I started learning English, the world shifted. I could apply for scholarships abroad. I could attend international seminars. I could publish research, not just in local journals, but in places where global conversations were happening. I could understand case studies from countries with advanced healthcare systems and bring those lessons home. Suddenly, education wasn't just something I had. It was something I could use in a bigger way. And let's not forget the job market. So many positions now, especially in medicine, technology, and research, ask for English fluency, not because they want to be difficult, but because collaboration is global. A hospital in Pakistan may use a machine built in Germany with a manual written in English and support staff in India or the US. You can be excellent in your field, but if you can't connect, explain, or understand in the global language, the door stays closed. But here's the good news. Once you learn English, your education becomes more valuable. You no longer just have knowledge. You can share it, grow it, use it. English becomes the bridge between what you know and what the world needs. And that's when your education truly starts to shine, not just on a certificate, but in the lives you impact. So yes, study hard, but don't stop at degrees. Because when you add English to your education, you don't just prepare for a job, you prepare for a future without borders. English helped me serve more people with greater compassion. When I became a doctor, I thought my job was only about diagnosis, medicine, and treatment. But I quickly learned that people don't just come to you for pills. They come to you for comfort, for clarity, for reassurance. They want to be understood. And that's when I realized something powerful. Language is a form of care. There were patients who came in scared, in pain, confused, and many of them didn't speak my first language. But when I spoke a few words in English, their eyes changed, their shoulders dropped, they felt seen, and I felt something shift inside me. I wasn't just helping with medicine, I was helping with humanity. It's easy to overlook how language shapes trust. When someone can explain their pain without fear of being misunderstood, they open up. When they hear you respond in a language they know, even just a little, they feel safe. And safety is the beginning of healing. English gave me the ability to listen with greater depth, to answer with more precision, to guide with greater warmth. I could counsel families from different backgrounds. I could speak to international colleagues, learn their techniques, and bring better care to my own community. I could read patient histories, drug research, and global guidelines, all because of a language I once struggled to pronounce. Serving others isn't just about what you know, it's about how well you connect. And English helped me connect across cultures, across generations, across fears. It didn't replace compassion, it amplified it. It didn't erase my native language. It added another instrument to the song of service. So if you want to help people, not just treat them, but truly serve them, let English become part of your voice, not to impress, but to express, not to dominate, but to relate, because the more languages we speak, the more hearts we can touch. And in the end, that's what service is about, touching lives, not just with hands, but with words that heal.